ANCAP, which is generously funded indeed by you and me, the Australian taxpayer, also known as the Golden Goose in this case, $16.3 million currently. ANCAP has taken time out of its hectic schedule of copying and pasting Euro NCAP's actual hard work to let us all know that an irrelevant luxury EV that statistically nobody in their right mind is ever gonna buy is 5-star. What a freaking relief, dude. Like there was ever any doubt too, because this vehicle is the Ioniq 9, which is a clone of Kia's flagship EV, the EV9, which has been 5 stars for donkey's ages. Dude, this is yet another fine example of your tax dollars at work. Well, thank God the jury came back quickly to let us all know no death cap mushrooms in Ioniq 9's beef Wellington. Yes, what a result. Meanwhile, in other news, for ordinary mortals buying mainstream cars for ordinary mortals, i.e., dudes like you and me, the Mazda CX-90, the CX-70, the CX-5, the Mazda 2, the Mazda 6 and the MX-5, just for example, are not currently rated by ANCAP. Mainly because Mazdas are not sold in Europe, right? And that means that ANCAP would have to spend some of its hard-grifted taxpayer funding doing actual testing here on vehicles that mainstream Australians actually buy. And I would suggest that this is just the tip of the unrated frickin' iceberg. It's disgraceful. Toyota Corolla, currently unrated. Toyota Land Cruiser cab chassis. Think about the endless kilometres those vehicles do exposed to all kinds of highway hazards. Currently unrated. Hyundai i30, unrated. Kia Picanto and Rio/Stonic, tomato, unrated. Suzuki Jimny, bit of a cult following there, unrated. Nissan Navara, unrated. Land Rover Discovery, hitbox, unrated. BMW X3, also unrated. But Ioniq 9 is 5 stars. Thank the Lord. Ford Everest Tremor, unrated. See, there are some vehicles where the majority of the range is rated, but just little variants like popular ones or flagships, whatever, they're not rated, okay? And this is like a loophole in these batshit crazy rules. Ford Everest Tremor, unrated. Kia Tasman X Pro and the one beneath it, which is X-Line, I think, unrated. Hilux GR Sport, also unrated. We could be here all day if we wanted to do a proper audit of all of the unrated vehicles that really do deserve a rating, ahead of irrelevant shitboxery like the Ioniq 9, frankly. Consumers, therefore, have absolutely no idea how safe or otherwise these far more pedestrian vehicles that I just mentioned actually are. But Ioniq 9 and EV5, which are just the same thing in a different wonder bra kind of thing, same stripper, different wonder bra, they're really, really safe. They offer the pinnacle of safety performance because guess what? They're flagships in their respective manufacturers' inventories. They offer the pinnacle of everything that could be offered because that's what flagships do. But I would argue if you're going to do this, if you're going to spend taxpayer funds to rate vehicles on safety as a public service, like as a service to the community paid for by the government and achieved by some third party, however imperfect, is there not a moral imperative to spend that money where it's going to do the maximum good? And surely in this case, that means informing the maximum number of buyers about just how safe the vehicles that they're actually likely to buy in the foreseeable future really are. This video is possible only because of my two enduring side hustles, which would be I get new cars cheap for people just like you. It doesn't cost you a red cent to use my service. We bill the dealer if you go ahead with the purchase, and we go to bat for you to prevent you from suffering the indignity of having your pants pulled down, grabbing your ankles on the showroom floor, which statistically nobody really enjoys. I mean, there are probably some sick bastards out there who do, but if that's you, go for it, dude. The world is your oyster. Any dealership will be happy to accommodate you. For everybody else, we can help. Link in the description. The other thing I do, of course, home solar. So many cowboys out there, so many dodgy products with third-rate support. Let's be realistic. So I have engineered a system in place that's just like the car buying thing, except we get people quality home solar systems, minus the cowboys, with reliable components, with solid onshore support and engineering oversight and validation of the system design before it gets installed. That's kind of important. Link in the description there. Also, absolutely no obligation in either case. And now back to defunding ANCAP. Unlike me, ANCAP is gushing all over its announcement concerning the Ioniq 9. They issued a press release entitled, quote, 5 stars, not a bar too high for Hyundai Ioniq 9. Damning it with faint praise, I'd suggest. It's hardly like kicking the hugest goal with Ioniq 9. It's just not a bar too high. Quote from ANCAP, a 5-star ANCAP safety rating has today been confirmed for the new Hyundai Ioniq 9 large electric SUV following comprehensive independent testing against the latest 2025 safety protocols. Yeah, testing which was done by Euro NCAP as frickin' usual and copied and pasted at great expense by ANCAP. Hashtag tax dollars at work. And half of those tests done by Euro NCAP were actually copied and pasted from the tests done by Euro NCAP of EV9 because it's the same frickin' stripper wearing a different Wonder Bra. They go on. Quote, the Hyundai Ioniq 9 is one of the few all-electric large SUVs currently available to Australian consumers, offering families both size and innovative design without compromise on safety. So, this business about offering families, okay? I just priced one of these big shitters, okay? Now, this is the 7-seat calligraphy climate masturbators special. They don't call it exactly that, but 7-seat and calligraphy are in the title. It's in biophilic ink, which, if you couldn't guess, was a frickin' colour. Dude. It had a few accessories, but I stopped short of ticking the box for the, quote, luxury cargo organiser, because you wouldn't have anything but luxury cargo in a car such as that, or the, quote, seat business suit hanger. And I didn't do that for two reasons. Two reasons, dude. One of which is obviously that I no longer spend any of my life looking like a corporate criminal. After wearing suits endlessly on television for all those years, corporate criminals aren't us, at least not any longer. That's the first reason. And two, because if I did slip one day and look like a corporate criminal, I wouldn't want to be caught driving without pants with my suit in a hanger behind me. That could be hard to explain to the cops, mightn't it? 4 years of prepaid servicing. I ticked that box though, and just over $140,000 for this alleged family conveyance. And incidentally, if you do want the luxury cargo thingo or the corporate criminals costume hanger, they're only about $200 each anyway, so like chicken feed, dude. Same sort of price as the EV9, obviously, because same engineering, same amortization, same basic specifications, different wonder bra. Offering families both size and innovative design without compromise on safety, unquote. Please, families with more than $140,000 to spend on a virtue signalling climate statement piece. That's a small number of families in the current climate, I would argue. Anyway, Kia currently sells 25 EV9s a month, right? 25. They've got more than 100 dealers too, right? So what this says to me is that they really can't sell any, but they're kind of obliged to take some from the factory. And when that happens, they get here on a boat and they're diligently driven off the boat and on a dock somewhere. And then you've got to, if you're Kia Australia, you've got to get rid of them, don't you? So what do? We've got these 25 every month of these big shitters, and we've got to get rid of them. How do we do it? Well, we make our dealers take them as demonstrators, and then when some rich-looking masturbator comes in and stands on the killing floor, we point to the unbeatable deal for this former, senior executive's car kind of thing, a dealer demonstrator, and some of them fall for it. I don't think anyone is paying full retail for an EV9, or statistically at least. I mean, the odd person might be, but most of them, I suspect strongly, are being sold as demonstrators. And this means that every Kia dealer is required to take one as a demonstrator every 3 months or something. Maybe the big city ones slightly more often. Anyway, when you look at this through the prism of what other good could be done, 25 a month. I don't see Hyundai being able to sell more than 25 of these things a month either. It may be that the market for these climate masturbatory flagships is like 25 a month, and when Ioniq 9 gets into full stride, it's just going to take 12 and a half sales a month away from Kia, kind of thing. So we're talking chicken feed in a market that sells 100,000 cars a month. But some of these other vehicles demanding attention in the safety rating sweepstakes include the Mazda CX-5, which sells 1,500 vehicles a month, ballpark. So if we rated that, we would inform 60 times more Australian taxpayers about just how safe or otherwise a vehicle is, in this case the CX-5. The Hyundai i30, currently unrated also, 1,000 of those get sold every month. That's 40 times the number of buyers who would be informed about the safety of a vehicle if they just got off their asses and did that instead. 40 times more people in the community would have an idea about the safety of that car. Kia Picanto, 700 a month. That's 28 times the effectiveness in the public awareness of vehicular safety sweepstakes, okay? Nissan Navara, 600 a month. That's 24 times the number of consumers. Suzuki Jimny, 300 a month, and Mazda 2, 300 a month, which are both 12 times the number of consumers effectively being informed by the Ioniq 9 rating, okay? This is your tax dollars at work. All of these vehicles are currently unrated, and they are all cars that actual families can afford. And this, in my estimation, is a monstrous misuse of taxpayer funds. It just is. How the Minister, Catherine King, can justify this is flat out beyond me. And if you feel strongly about malfeasance of this nature, then I strongly suggest you respectfully contact the Minister and ask her to man up about it. Okay? Explain away the 16 million bucks to play games with irrelevant bullshit cars like this. The volleyball referee who runs ANCAP, Carla Horweg, had, this is an opportunity. The press release is always an opportunity for the man at the top to grab the megaphone and spray. And in this case, Ms. Horweg said, quote, "This latest safety rating demonstrates that when Hyundai aims for 5 stars, they can achieve it." Now, I've got to be careful about what I say here, which is one of the reasons why I have my guidelines in front of me. It's very dangerous to talk about individuals. So this is just my personal opinion, and I'm going to tell you the facts upon which I am basing it, okay? This statement says, the latest rating demonstrates that when Hyundai aims for 5 stars, they can achieve it. And I suppose that is true, but to me, this is evidence that suggests that the ongoing feud between Hyundai and ANCAP, the hatchet appears to be unburied, in my view. Or if it is buried, the handle is poking out of the ground so you can rip it out and scalp someone at a moment's notice, right? There's no ceasefire in the wings, I would suggest. Most probably. How would I know? But, okay, so the fight between the stoush, the disagreement between Hyundai and ANCAP stems from a statement by the former Chief Operating Officer John Cadogan, who effectively told the world via Bruce Newton that, quote, "you can't have an honest conversation about safety with ANCAP." Okay? This is fighting words if you operate in this domain. Very brave of him to say it. Hashtag respect. Anyway, regarding Ms. Horweg's comments, I'd say as a public-facing statement, it's kind of misrepresentative about how car companies actually work, in my view, okay? This business about when they aim for it, they can achieve it. We're not at the casino aiming for 7s or something, and we're not playing sport, aiming for the goal. You know, in sport, you always aim for the goal. Sometimes you score one, and sometimes you frickin' miss, dude. It guts you when that happens. But hey, just a game. This isn't a fucking game, and it's not how car companies work. They don't aim for it. They decide what safety rating they're going to engineer into the product. And many people don't get this about how car companies work. So let me lay it out for you, okay? The process is really, really simple, and it's bean counter driven, right? A car company says, hey, we got this new car. It's kind of exciting. It's going to go in here into this segment of the market. And then they go, well, what's the price got to be to achieve the sales we need? And they land on a price. And then there's a war internally between product planning and the factory, basically, right? Because you have to meet the price point. Otherwise, you don't sell the car and you're out the back door. Nobody wants that. So then they decide what's disposable to meet the price point. Okay, so if it's a cheap car, like an Insta, with expensive guts, like a dirty big battery and electric motors and things of that nature, they have to decide what is disposable. And in the case of Insta, they took the rational decision that the 5-star safety rating was disposable to meet the price point that they need to meet to sell the frickin' Insta. It's that simple. And they do this with all vehicles. So they decide what safety rating they're going for. It's not a game of chance. It's like a fucking moonshot. If you mission control, you don't just aim for the moon and sometimes you hit it and sometimes you miss. You decide that you're going to hit it, okay? So in every case, car makers go, it's going to be 5-star. They've got better facilities than ANCAP, better test facilities. They've got endless PhDs. You swing a frickin' cat at Namyang and all you see around you is unconscious PhDs. There's no dispute that they'll get it. If they decide that it's 5-star, it's going to be fucking 5-star. And even using the shitty steam-powered testing equipment available in Australia, that's enough to validate that they designed 5-star and it is 5-star. But as for this tail wagging the dog, ANCAP being a watchdog and identifying car companies that somehow miss the target, that's such bullshit. It doesn't work that way, and it's a fundamental misrepresentation of how the automotive industry works. Propeller heads go, your mission is 5-star, and they go off and achieve it. Or the bean counters go, we can't afford 5-star, get 4. And they go, your will is my command, Uncle Darth, or whatever, right? So Hyundai had 5-star in mind with Ioniq 9 because it's a flagship, and they got it, right? That's how this works. I think framing it in this way, and this is just my personal opinion also, but I think framing it in this way is part of the mission to justify ANCAP's existence to the minister who signs off on the funding, Catherine King. Now, she's the federal infrastructure minister, and incidentally, she's a lawyer who has been a career politician for a quarter of a century, but only recently qualified as a lawyer. Go figure. Before that, she had public policy, basic sort of undergraduate and master's degree in public administration or something of that nature. Okay, that's kind of who she is. Now, the volleyball ref is also a lawyer. So we've got two lawyers sitting in a room talking about the funding of one of the lawyer's operations. And I would argue that you could write on the head of a freaking pin with a dirty big outline marker about 20 times the diameter of this one. You need both hands to grab what these two know about applied physics or what actually goes on below the surface in car company operations of R&D and applied whatever, like how they actually go about achieving this stuff. It'd all just be Greek. I am absolutely certain, but I might be wrong. It's a pretty simple deal. I just think there's this potential conversation between them that goes, well, we're getting them in line. They're 5-star now. The Insta was 4-star, but now they're 5. Now, NCAP, who actually did the tests, okay, they issued a public statement, and it's a very brief public statement concerning Ioniq 9's 5-star safety rating, and I could only find one sentence in it, and it says the following, quote, "The Audi Q4 e-tron, Hyundai Ioniq 9, Mini Aceman and Smart number 5 are all SUVs from well-established brands and all delivered a robust set of results during Euro NCAP tests." So they all delivered a robust set of results during Euro NCAP tests, ensuring a 5-star safety rating. In other words, Ioniq 9 et al.'s 5-star safety rating is completely unremarkable and exactly what everyone expected. So the achievement of 5 stars is just unremarkable to Euro NCAP. But then ANCAP tries to flip this into some statement about when they aim for it, they can achieve it. Like there was ever any doubt. ANCAP's mission is justifying its own existence to the minister, I feel, and it would be easy to see that conversation taking place where they say, well, you remember the Insta? It was 4 stars, but we pulled their DAX down about it, and they lifted their game with Ioniq 9. Yay us, keep funding us, we love money, kind of thing. That's a conflict of interest, right? What's the real objective here? Is it the securing the funding or is it informing the public? I'm just seeing it increasingly like a game of politics, although I have no insider knowledge of the dialogue that takes place internally inside ANCAP or between ANCAP and the federal minister about its funding. Just looking at it from without, they're just objectively not doing the maximum good they could do with those funds by concentrating on these irrelevant shitboxes. That's just how it is. All these decisions about what safety rating each of those vehicles is, Insta, EV9, Ioniq 9, whatever, they've been taken months to years earlier, clearly, because R&D takes time. ANCAP is not like the referee in a football match. Yeah, that goal was in, kind of thing. Not that at all. ANCAP is validation at best. And at worst, it's just heavily funded copying and pasting of Euro NCAP's validation, which is exactly what has taken place with Ioniq 9. Now, the volleyball referee continues and says, regardless of price point or purpose, it's consumers who benefit most when vehicle safety is prioritised. And Hyundai have shown leadership and achieved this with their flagship EV. So I would argue here that A, making irrelevant cars safe really doesn't make much of a difference to overall vehicular safety at the level of the road-going population, because if you're only selling 25 cars out of 100,000 every month and most of them don't crash, then a 5-star rating there is statistically pretty irrelevant. I don't think there's any other way you can carve that up. So the price point does match. What doesn't matter. What really matters is the popularity of that car. How many people is it going to be inflicted upon? And in the case of the Ioniq 9, not many, dude. My second point about that statement is like, Jesus Christ on a cross, Carla. Hyundai is a singular entity, and ANCAP has an entire communications team to validate the shit that it says publicly before it says it. And yet, Hyundai have shown leadership. Hyundai have. This is what shooting yourself in the junk looks like. Hyundai is a singular entity, right? It's Hyundai has. Companies are singular entities. It's like, let me give you some hypothetical examples, shall I? Hyundai has defecated in its DAX by offending ANCAP, seemingly. The lobby group has been caught giving politicians a reach around, has been caught. The strippers have put on a spectacular show. Machete-wielding thugs have made a night out in Melbourne far less enjoyable lately. Desi Freeman has pulled the cops' DAX down with considerable proficiency again. And finally, lacing beef Wellington with death cap mushrooms has proved a poor choice. If you want to get away with it, dude. Singular and collective, like it's not that hard. Hyundai have, please. You'd think that $16 million by way of donation to ANCAP from the taxpayer, you and me, would just, for that diligent copying and pasting, would at least come with a free side serve of mid-level literacy. At least that's what I'd expect. Could be a character defect, who knows. More importantly, though, $16.3 million. Could it be better spent elsewhere? I'd argue, yeah, dude, it could. I would further argue that it is time to defund ANCAP. ANCAP did great work around 25 years ago, pulling the car industry's pants down on the issue of unsafe shitters among us. But that time has lapsed. They've been doing the hair and makeup on this, struggling for relevance for years, and it's like the Soviet bureaucracy now. It's more inwardly focused than it deserves to be if taxpayer funded, and it's not as beneficial to the consumer as ever before, because you know what? Even a 4-star car is safe enough. When you think about risk out there on the road and the actual factors that lead to injury and death, 4 stars is good enough, right? It really is. ANCAP at the moment, one of its major roles is functioning as if it's a fax machine connected to Euro NCAP, but then just kind of faking it, being independently authoritative, and it also editorially embellishes the results derived by Euro NCAP. We could do that with 1 or 2 bureaucrats inside the Department of Infrastructure, just taking the feed, like the podcast RSS feed from Euro NCAP, and just publishing that more widely. And then we just have to mop up the pieces concerning the vehicles that do not get sold in Europe that are on sale here, and deal with them in a more efficient way than using ANCAP, right? Because ANCAP's busily justifying its own existence, taking therefore resources away that could otherwise be devoted to actually identifying vehicles that are unrated and doing the community a favour by rating the fuck out of them, which is sorely needed in the case of Toyota Corolla CX-5, i30, Suzuki Jimny, Nissan Navara, et freaking al. Less is more when it comes to what the taxpayer deserves. on this issue of vehicle safety, which vehicles are winners and which vehicles are losers, in my view, because you know what? When it comes to the new cars on sale today, the overwhelming majority of them, the 99th percentile of them, are really, really safe.